Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm an English teacher from the UK, and today I'm going to tell you a story in English about an engineering student who goes on a journey. Let's jump straight into the story. A long time ago in a country far away, there was a young engineering student. This student had just graduated university with a degree in civil engineering, and he was very happy because now he could get a job and earn his own money. But unfortunately, when he looked for work, he couldn't find anything. For 3 months, he looked for a job, but he didn't have any luck. He sent out CVs to hundreds of companies, but only got a few replies, and none of them offered him work. One day, while he was sitting at home thinking about how he was going to pay his bills without a job, he saw an advert on TV. It said that there was a company looking for engineers to work on a project in another part of the country. So he phoned up the number on the screen and arranged to meet the company director the following week. On Monday morning, he put on his best suit, took his CV, and drove 2 hours to meet the director. The company was a small one that designed and built bridges. When he arrived, he walked into an office where there were lots of engineers sitting at desks. A man stood up from behind a desk and introduced himself as the company director. He asked the student why he had applied for the job. The student explained that he needed work, and this seemed like a good opportunity. The director said, "I need somebody to work on a special project for me. Are you interested?" The student thought for a moment. He wanted the job, but he knew that it would probably involve hard physical work. "Yes," he said. "What do I have to do?" The director explained that he needed someone to travel around the country to different construction sites and inspect bridges. He also had to check that workers were using new technology to build the bridges. Then he would report back to the head office with his findings. The student thought this sounded exciting and agreed to take the job. That night he packed a suitcase with clothes for a week, and the next morning he drove off to start his first day at work. After driving for an hour, he stopped at a small village to get some lunch. As he was walking through the town, he saw a sign that said, "Bridge closed." He thought this was ironic, as he would soon be inspecting bridges for a living. Just then, he heard a loud crash, and he turned around to see a truck that had driven off the road and landed at the bottom of the river. It had clearly crashed through the barriers while trying to cross the bridge. The student knew that he had to do something to help, so he immediately ran to the nearest phone box and called the police and the ambulance. Luckily, the driver wasn't badly hurt, and the student helped him out of the truck and onto the pavement. While they were waiting for the emergency services, the student noticed that the damaged bridge was the one he had to inspect later that week. He wondered if the accident had happened because of problems with the new technology, or maybe the truck driver had simply made a mistake. After the police and ambulance had left, the student carried on walking until he found a petrol station where he could fill up his car. When he was getting money out of the ATM, he saw an old lady struggling to carry her shopping. Without thinking, he went over and helped her with her bags and walked her to her car. When they arrived, she thanked him for his help and said, "You remind me of my grandson. He's studying engineering at university too." They chatted for a few minutes about her grandson and how nice it was to meet someone else who liked engineering. Then the student continued on his way. When he arrived at his hotel that evening, he checked in and went straight to the restaurant for some food. When he sat down, a waiter came over and handed him a menu. As he was reading through it, he saw a group of older men at a nearby table arguing loudly. They were clearly drunk and they started to stare at the student. He felt uncomfortable, so he decided to move to another table. Unfortunately, they followed him and one of them said, "So you think you're better than us, huh? You sit over there and we'll sit here." The student didn't want to argue, so he calmly said, "Well, actually I'm not. I just want to eat my dinner in peace." This made the men even angrier, and they started shouting at him. Just then, the waiter came over and told them they had to leave, or he would call the police. They all stood up and started to walk away, but one of them tripped over and spilled his drink on the floor. The student felt sorry for him, so he paid for his dinner and left the restaurant. The next morning, the student got up early, had breakfast in the hotel, and set off to inspect the bridge. On the way, he stopped at a local hardware store to buy some equipment. When he walked in, a young woman smiled at him and said, "Can I help you?" She showed him where everything was, and when he had finished looking around, they started to chat. He found out that her name was Sarah, and she worked at the store part-time while studying at college. They talked for 20 minutes before he had to leave. He bought what he needed and drove off. When he arrived at the bridge, he noticed that the road had been closed while they carried out repair work. He then asked one of the workers if he had used the new technology, and he replied, "Of course we have. We can't build the bridge without it." The student continued checking the bridge for a few more hours, but he couldn't find anything wrong. So he wrote another report and moved on to the next bridge. This continued for a few days, and he soon realized that each bridge presented a new challenge. He met lots of different people and learned a lot about how to construct and repair bridges. At the end of the week, he returned to head office and gave the reports to the director. He explained some of the problems he had seen, and the director nodded, taking notes. "Thank you," he said. "You have a bright future ahead of you. Would you like to continue working here?" The student was very happy. He enjoyed the job and liked the sound of the company. "Yes, I would like that," he said.